just gonna go down in time. This is an
What happened? Graced up there. Oh, Dicey.
Oh my God, J-Mo, the champion of this one.
Oh, Asuna! He gets the triple off the rocket as the full.
Welcome on in, folks. It's yet another day here for Valorant Challengers #1 here for North America, and we have two banger semifinals to bring you guys today. My name is Upmind, joined here by my boy Itzo, and, well, we're going to start things off with a huge game. NRG, who yesterday, and really for the past couple of days, they've been really heating up. But when we talk about a team that has been super dominant and has really come back into form, our boys are in Envy are really coming out swinging.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at yesterday, keep in mind what Envy just pulled off. A quick 2-0 over Luminosity Gaming that you're actually casting, and they have not dropped a single map this entire tournament too. They are looking lights out, and it's what a lot of teams I think kind of expect out of Envy. They have been heavily rated in North America for a good amount of time. You know, it's classic Envy, I suppose you can say, Gus.
It's classic Envy. It's a return to form. Yesterday's games were fairly interesting in a sense, especially here in the mainstream. We didn't have too much drama, two straight 2-0s, and I mean, we do get a couple of replays because there were quite a few of them. Gen G, they had a few players that did end up popping off individually in terms of stat lines, and one of them just so happened to be Sean, especially with a couple of cleanup rounds.
Unfortunately, Gen G just couldn't piece together the win, but yeah, I was watching that Vine VOD back, and he was just absolutely phenomenal. I heavily rated this guy back in his time on Moon Raccoons. You know, it was a short stint with them, but I'm glad that he got picked up by Gen G. He did phenomenal work. But at the end of the day, it was NRG who pulled out the series win and looked beautiful while doing it. Like you said, it was a quick 2-0, and NRG are looking on fire for this tournament as well.
Yeah. NRG, the players that really needed to pop off, and especially those that we expected to do so, it was Shanks and it was Som really stepping up to the plate. Great work from the two. But Envy, this entire map of Bind, it was a 1-2 combo. Everything was easy peasy for him. And one of the players who, again, it's the battle stage that always catches me off guard when it pops up. It had to be Food. He had, if I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4 real highlight moments. He was the sweet play of the day presented by Mike and Ike here on the stream yesterday. But otherwise, LG, they put up a real good fight on Split, but Envy still pulled it off. And really, the nail in the coffin for me had to be the eco at the 9-9 round. So otherwise, Envy coming into this day lightning speed, as LG just in the week before they had just won winter championships, and I mean, with that win already under their belt, Envy, they're looking good. NRG looking good. But you were talking about the other stream, of course. We had Immortals and Sentinels both taking their games. How were those?
Those were 2-0s as well, but Sentinels versus Andbox, I think, was absolutely amazing. You know, when you look at the score lines, it didn't look crazy. And Sentinels, they got off to a wonderful start to begin the day, begin both maps even. But Andbox really brought some late game form and kind of made it a bit difficult for Sentinels. But it kind of reminds me of what you were saying about how NRG performed yesterday, where they had these great pop-off performances. Although instead of Shanks, it was Sinatra, it was Sick, who also got the Mike and Ike Sweet Play of the day, for his incredible 360 antics. I mean, it's a very flashy team, this Sentinel squad. And I have to say, on the other side, who they're going to be facing Sentinels, it's Immortals who have been incredibly surprising to me, because this is kind of a new roster. They still have the core from their last iteration of lineup, but they brought in Chemicals and Nature, and they have been fantastic. In particular, I want to point out Chemicals. He's playing a new role, playing new agents, and yet he has still been incredible in bringing a brand new face to this Immortal squad.
Sentinels is almost literally that same lineup, though, in that same fire in a sense, especially after last week. I just mentioned LG. LG were the ones that took down Sentinels in the grand finals of things. So glad to see really both teams really coming out on their own. But let's focus on our next game, folks. Let's focus on the semifinals at hand. Of course, NRG coming into today with that same on fire roster with a couple of individual fraggers that you could seriously point at and be like, all right, those guys, they need to pop off. You have Shanks and you have Som. Those two have been seriously carrying in terms of fragging potential. Of course, you have the brains behind the team, Daps, EU being one of the most innovative and stellar Sovas in the scene, and Infinite. I mean, I talked about Som and Shanks, but really it could be a core 3 that could definitely go up at any time. Infinite certainly helping out, but with Envy, you still have that core in a sense. Like I mentioned with NRG, that these players, very good in terms of util usage in their own specialty type way, especially when we're talking about either Caboose or Food. But Food popped off yesterday on the battle stage against a team that, again, weren't exactly too accustomed to actually playing against the Sage, so he took full control of that.
It's small little things like that that are going to make all the difference. Roster is unfortunately a little bit swapped on the screen, but we do have our maps picked out here, and I think these are actually great for the side of NRG. So let's go ahead and take a look at those real quick. We're going to be starting things out here on Split. And I know before this day actually started, you and I were talking mind about how good this is. It was picked by Envy, and it's because of one interesting player who has been very innovative on, well, Sky, the new kind of player on the block, you know? I think Stronglegs, if he's watching this, he's, you know, punching the air right now. He's like, get me in on that. Crashies has been fantastic on the Sky, and it's what makes Envy so unique on this map.
I mean, it makes them an immortal team in a sense, because this team, the boys of Envy, they have not lost a singular map with Sky in their roster. So whether we're talking about Bind or Split, it's really those two maps where they're going to put up Sky mostly, and I'm expecting it again today. Although even if they don't, they still keep around a fairly meta positioned lineup with actually Breach getting replaced in with Raze, Omen, Cypher, and Jet. So when you look over towards the side of NRG, however, it's a little bit more muddied. They come into today with a 45% win rate only, but that is only because NRG mostly utilizes the map of Split as a little bit of a counter pick. Envy plays it a whole lot more, but it's still at about that counter picky range where the only times that they would really play it is in these best of 3 type situations. So of course, NRG, they're looking for a little bit more of a bounce back on this map, and they have the right, really the right comp to do so.
But, you know, you also have to keep in mind that a couple of things have changed on Split. There have been some pretty big overhauls to the A site in particular, where Heaven has completely removed this really powerful cubby that was used as kind of a staple for the defenders, and in its place is now this kind of narrow wall where you can't play it off the same way as possible. And considering NRG decide to start on defense as well, you know, do you think their Split has changed all too much? I haven't exactly had the luxury of watching them on Split all too much recently, but I've been seeing them play a lot of Icebox. I think I saw them play Bind recently. You know, those are all maps that we should be seeing from them relatively soon, but is Split really going to be their map? Do you think they're going to take this one in the first place?
Well, if we had to do a prediction, first of all, we left that up to Twitch chat, but if I'm being completely honest, no. I do not think that NRG really has that big of a chance going into this one, and I say that almost with just with a hard air of doubt. Purely because, again, from what we've seen from Envy on this map, it's been very refined, but there's still places they can still pick apart. Yesterday, LG still kept it very close, but that's purely because LG actually maintained Split as a fairly consistent map in their pool. So even then, Envy, they were still able to really keep it tit for tat. But the one thing that was really missing from their squad was the initial takes, in a sense. It was hard control, and Envy, if they can't really battle back with the individual players in the choke points that they really like to contest, we're not exactly going to be seeing that same fire from yesterday. But NRG, they simply still do have a chance. And oh, we have a curveball here, folks. We have none other than the Sage actually getting pulled out by NRG. Yes. Okay, this is a new one. And, I mean, this is very much evident of what Envy goes for.
It's a new look, but it's exactly what you want to see in these sort of scenarios as well. It's a brand new time. You've already qualified for that closed qualifier, so why not explore, try to innovate your Split play? And I think this is, again, a great time to do it. Sage brought out, as well as the Sky. She's been getting a lot of love. The info that she can get from those guiding lights, those birds, as I just colloquially call them, it's, you know, it's going to be kind of meta-changing, I think, here on Split. It offers a lot to the table, and I'm really expecting a lot out of NRG since they are exploring these new comps.
And the last time that they played Split was, I think it was over a week ago at this point, at Winter Championships. And coming into this week, they haven't played Split at all. They've played, if I'm not mistaken, 5 sets already in this tournament, and not a singular map of Split being played. So Envy, they have no film to go off of, no info, but they certainly have the frags. Envy on the front lines, already with a couple of frags back, and NRG, they get exposed over towards the A sites. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live with semifinals.
It starts off immediately as well. Envy just finding a kill a second into this round. Obviously, it's not done yet, but look, that info from the Sky is already coming into play. That Trailblazer is going to be used to spot out one player over towards screens, and this has to be the beginning of something beautiful here, Mind. Because right now, they are being tagged out and can't even get out to take a fight or two.
Oh boy, in comes Mame. As Sam tries to, again, just try to do some sort of heroics. Doesn't work out in his favor. Again, I get the idea with a wall. You're in a solo position over towards elbow. Your teammate's still in heaven. Want to get some sort of wide swing going, but even then, Envy, it really came down to the early interaction from NRG. They had 2 players actually wanted to fight that back A main line, which actually does make a lot of sense. Usually in the pistol rounds, from what we've seen from Envy, is that they like to focus up all of their efforts towards at least one spot. So if they can actually kind of gamble it, at least predict it right early on, they could take early sewer control, get that information back over towards B. Just overall rotations will be a whole lot quicker. But Envy, they're the ones that end up catching NRG off guard. And NRG, they're not looking for that same kind of dynamic once again. Instead, in this round, you're having Envy with a little bit more of a default, and NRG staying a little bit more conservative in a sense, playing more safe.
They have brought out the Bucky to play, though, at least in Infinite's hands, so that could definitely throw a spanner into the works. Or perhaps it's going to be the Sheriff that does the dirty work. Mame, unfortunately, the first victim for this, but look at this move from Envy. This is such a slow play by them, but I absolutely adore it. They're just going to be walking in through screens, making noise at just the last possible moment they need to. This is where those Buckies can really shine, and you're going to see it reflect in the frags.
Wait a minute!
NRG. They pick up 2 in their favor. Everything has seemingly gone wrong here. Crashies, he has to go ahead and try to piece this round together. The Bucky, not exactly great at that long range. Will allow Crashies to pick up another and get that spike down, Gus. It's going to be Sky Mirror. And the Seekers, excuse me, have come out to play.
Right, the Seeker's already out. And they already spot the man in heaven. So if anything, Crashies just has to wait for the drop. And indeed, there it goes around the corner. Infinite wins it out with only 22 HP. Again, you just gotta laugh. NRG come into this round with an army of Buckies of all things. And I think that's just the NRG style. I like to use the word pug a lot with a lot of teams, but NRG truly is that puggy team, truly has that mindset for the individual frags. So when it comes to the confidence, when it comes to doing something that's a little bit more of a wild card pick, NRG loves to go for it. So with the Buckies, they catch that momentum back, and now Envy, they're the ones left on the back foot. They're the ones left with the upgraded pistols.
Look, man, the Bucky is $900, but that round was priceless. Exactly what you need from NRG if you want to come out swinging on a map that you didn't pick, first off, and also you're facing off against a 100% win rate for your enemies. They have bought up rifles fully into this one, and Envy, they're sticking with the pistols like you mentioned. You're going to see a heavy emphasis, like you did in this pistol round, over towards one side of the map, but they are keeping one player, Crashies I believe it is, over towards mid to maybe provide a little bit of information for his team. They can't find the frags behind it, Gus, and it looks like this is falling flat.
Falling flat, that was the expected outcome for really the guys of Envy. So not too much to look at. NRG, good pressure on the ramp side, still with a good split in a sense. But now Envy, yeah, no joke intended. But you're still going to have Envy back on the guns, back on the rifles, and really looking at the wider scope of things, Sully. I mean, This game
Sully.
doesn't need all to Sully. Wow. I'm not used to it
I almost
yet.
called you Tanner.
I know. It's like that one SpongeBob song. This kitchen's not the same without you, but it is what it is. When we really look at it from a wider scale, this game doesn't mean all too much in a tournament sense, in a individual sense, purely because these two teams are already in the closed qualifier. But Envy and NRG, great for seeding, great at least for momentum, and this is great for studying. We're seeing again from NRG, they pull out the stage, they pull out the sky, which is another change for them. So Envy, early on, at least into this round, getting back into the action. They do have themselves a two-man advantage from yet another early A control in a sense, because NRG, they keep liking to go aggressive.
Push has come out onto site. Envy, they can play the numbers game at this point, trade each other out. It's what has made them so successful in the NA scene so far. Their positions are wonderful, and you're going to see it good for 2 kills as they storm the site, get the spike down, and move into a very strong post plant. A nigh impossible situation for Daps, might I add. A 1v4, it doesn't seem exactly favorable. However, anything can happen. But to go ahead and recap what we saw this round, it's like you mentioned, they had some really early A control, and I had a really big question mark heading into this round as well, because Mame, as the obs will actually point out, has the operator in hand. And I was wondering, what's really his role going to be in the early stages of this round? And apparently, it's just going to be wide swinging, and NRG are more than happy to, I guess, help them out with that question I had and find a very quick answer for me. An early kill goes their way, Envy, but they don't try to burst it into an actual execute. They wait, sit on their laurels a little bit longer, and are completely comfortable just taking the site at their own volition. But into this next round, we do have more guns in play, and Shanks will be bringing out that Blade Storm. Lots of interesting things to keep your eye on here.
Yeah, Shanks, he's not even going to go for any insurance or anything of the sort with an upgraded pistol. He seriously just wants to commit to the knives. Over towards the ramp area this time. There's 3 players for NRG. Fast rotate back over towards mid. So you were mentioning Mame. Mame, he's going to be really the space maker, really the person to take on that first contact, especially over towards a ramp and in mid. And that's exactly what Mame had just pulled off. No one was actually there, right? But Mame would have still had that early information, even if he ended up missing, which for yesterday was an absolute rarity. Mame was an absolute legend with the operator. But now this time, the entirety of NV still making their way over towards the B site. There's only one on the lurk, and now in we go. Shanks has the updraft. He actually bumps his head on a little bit of a divot, and Mame is there to take advantage too. Food and Mame both with frags. That is so unfortunate for Shanks. I swear you could put a little bit of a bonk sound effect right as Shanks tried to go for the updraft, but it is what it is. NRG down to a 2-on-4, and Som, he's about to get flanked on from heaven, and there it is. One last player remaining. It's Daps now in a 1v4. He's actually going to try to go for this potentially. A couple of frags here and there would really affect the economy for Envy, but otherwise, time has already gone by. The round is for Envy, but for NRG, they're scratching their heads.
I think this was such a good round from Envy, though. What they did to start things out here was, once again, bring out that flash, bring out the guiding light, and they used it towards ropes, popped it in there, and right before it was about to pop, Daps shot it down. So they had a good idea of where the stack was going to be, and since there's a player located by ropes, they felt a lot more comfortable making it into a B hit. However, also on the other side of things, NRG, they realized, okay, they probably understand where our stack is at the moment, and they brought over Shanks to try to help out the scene towards B. So it's really kind of this interesting dynamic, this game of rotations that's coming through, but Envy just moves so quick where those rotates really don't even have time to come into effect by the time they're already moving through. They have the kills behind it. Shanks obviously bumped his head for good measure, and right now, Envy have just kind of bopped NRG on the head as well, kind of as a whole. As they move up to 3 rounds, this attacking side is looking great for them. Oh, no, it's a bad TP! Oh, no!
EU. Yeah, you absolutely hate to see it.
Oh, yeah.
TP going a little bit awry, and the smoke was right about to pop too.
They don't have any smokes now, man.
Maltimed, no smokes. Their util setup is restricted for now, and again, NRG, this is a little bit of a last stand for their economy too. They're about to get reset, but this is an interesting setup here. Shanks has to hold off the heaven area. In Som, he was about to pull off a wall right in front of him just to try to hold off the A main side, but he still has the drop of the Stinger. But eventually, Envy, they control and they overwhelm. Still Infinite with a Bucky. Wait a minute. He does it again. Now it's a 2-on-2. Still one close up. If he had waited just a millisecond, Caboose went for the wide swing. But this is winnable now for Daps.
Planted.
Unreal timing. No. Caboose peeks out, but no, Daps runs right into the cold arms of FNS. Oh.
What was he thinking? He was.
Where
was he thinking, rather?
I mean, he probably had some sort of false info, but he could have literally been anywhere. That dismiss could have lasted a little bit more for him to escape into elbow. Because the player was in hell, that was literally the last position that he would have wanted that interaction to go. But Daps didn't have too much to lose. If we look back on it, no chance, really, for NRG in that round. It was Infinite with a Bucky to open things up. And I think I saw a tweet a little bit early on. This game is literally getting compared to 10-mans, where people are just trying stuff out and almost pugging. It's experimental. And I mean, NRG, for the setup that they have at the moment, they're still succeeding, but not the rounds that are going for them. They still have the rifles back, though, Ito.
These are still very important experiments to have, though, because think about it. Going into that closed qualifier next week, you're maybe going to have to play split against, you know, a similarly competent team, right. And you'll actually have to bring out these strategies that you're trying to incorporate. Already, you're seeing a bit more experimentation as they look to make this into a quick A-hit. It's a bit strange, this pacing. They're kind of being stuck inside the smokes here, but that's not going to stop NRG from continuing to take fights and trade each other out. We're into another 4v4 here, although maybe not for long.
Yeah, wonderfully done by Daps. Gonna get one kill, gonna stay disciplined, group back with his team for the retake back. But oh my, Som, that's beautiful. Double kill for him. He gets one easily, but the second one with a spray transfer while full blind, he gets it back. Now it's a 2-on-3. This is Envy's tallest task. And Crashies, he's still on the front lines trying to help out. Som still has a third. Who other than Crashies, though, has a couple of flashes, and not only that, but the ulti, the Seekers, they're out to play. Has one on site. Not going to be able to get all that much info, but there you go. The two Seekers, they split up. He knows exactly where both of them are in a sense, or at least a vague knowledge of where they could be. But even then, NRG, just with a good fight back in a sense, something that we haven't seen too much of those initial takes from Envy. It's just trying to take on those 1v1s and really actually winning them. It's coming down to individual duels here, Ito, and Envy now. They might get knocked down a peg, but they're still looking for an explosive opening, as this B site might be the target.
Well, late round pushes, I feel like, have helped NRG get to the 3 rounds they have at the moment. I think this guiding light might do good to dissuade any early aggression from Envy. But when we've seen them do this in the past, they just wall up that right side. And before, they had Shanks bopping his head. That didn't make that exactly the most useful wall. But this time, Shanks, he's not going to really be anywhere to be found, at least for another couple of seconds. A TP into the back of the site. The XQ is going to begin. Envy just waiting for that ice to maybe melt a little bit from the floor, and that will mark the beginning of a ton of kills. Caboose finds the opener, far from the last one here up high.
Oh, far from it. Gotta give it up to the wide peaks again. Envy. They absolutely clean up house. Only one player goes down to a trade. And again, NRG, they had the right idea. They had the right positions on site, but it just so happened to be that in the back take, you had EU trying, or I'm sorry, Caboose taking back lane control. And if anything, NRG off the fast rotation, they didn't have any information on site. They had nothing to work with. They start throwing out a little bit of util, but at the expense of their teammates on site, a couple of flashes could go definitely awry. So if anything, Envy, they had full real estate, and all they needed to do was wait for NRG to try to approach the scenario towards that B main area and just wait for their opponents to walk into their crosshairs. That was wonderfully managed by Envy.
Beautiful management like that is going to make a world of difference. They have popped off as well, I should say, on this attacking side. NRG, on another pretty shabby buy, will be forced to try to utilize a couple of crossfires. In particular, you see it most noticeable over at B. That Trailblazer is going to sniff them out, and look how this will actually be a take by Envy. You're probably not going to see the typical wall split, but if they do, you're going to see... Oh, wait, what is this TP? That is actually big for info. That's watching for that's watching for maybe a rotate through their spawn. I'm guessing at this point, NRG are going to try to stack the site, even though they didn't see anything. Interesting use of that Omen TP. I don't even know, man. This is kind of a weird util. No.
I guess we'll ignore it. The Sky, they or may not have the gun in their body, but is what it is, right? Ladies and gentlemen, of course, there is a take now from Envy. They have the full rifles, and this time NRG, they still have at least some sort of awareness over towards the back of sight, but again, with the restricted firepower and with NRG still having a little bit faster of a rotate in the heaven side, there's nothing to it. 2 players back over towards their spawn. Envy has all the lanes covered. Caboose from up top actually taking down EU. And now Shanks. Shanks with a Bucky, waiting for someone to peek. But again, what is up with Caboose?
Dude.
In this wonderful timing against Bucky's. It's already happened twice already, but yeah, again, flawless round was the eco from Envy. Or, I'm sorry, against the eco for Envy. And now NRG, they pick up the rifles back, and I'm trying to see what the setup would be going into this round, because that A pressure for them, and it has been, there you go. There it is. There
How
it
did
is.
I not see that?
Hey, it is what it is.
To kind of talk to you about the setup, though, sorry, I can't get over seeing that gun there. I took a screenshot of it. Anyway,
for the Twitter.
Envy, for the Twitter, for the desktop background. But I think really right now, NRG, their biggest weakness seems to be completely stopping Envy. Once they even get control of B main, they can sit in there for a while because of that wall pressure. I thought they were going to try to change their approach in that last round, but it didn't even seem to be necessary because they just managed to work that position so well. They're going to wait out this wall, most likely, set up the same one that they've been doing time and time again. I think NRG would be heavily more comfortable if they brought in EU to try to help over towards B. Maybe set up a paranoia play, or just
counter
wall
wall.
Up, get the... Okay,
That's
that
wonderful.
works as well.
Yeah,
Site
no
is
info.
theirs. I mean, it's free. It's free real estate.
It's free real estate now for Envy here on site with nobody here for NRG. So again, NRG mostly booked around that mid side. When I talk about fast rotates, this is as fast as you can get. They're holding back the line. Still, Crashes, FNS, Food, all getting frags, but still restricted down to the 2-on-2. Crashes around the corner. Does know that there's one back over towards main, but the crossfire is set up for EU. That's massive, and now it's Infinite. Still holding down the angle, and Mame now with an operator down to a 1-on-2. Spike control is fully in the hands of NRG, but Mame taking a little bit more of an alternate route. It could definitely get this initial kill onto Infinite.
What a shot.
But Infinite, it's a wonderful frag, but again, just winding that down. NRG, so much pressure onto Envy. After Envy thought it was completely free, that was just a great retake.
Right. Yeah, I mean, considering that was basically given up, there's kind of 2 schools of thought of how you can do that. You can either fight for it, or, you know, try to set up a paranoia play as soon as you flood out B main and just hope that you can win the fight, or you can do option number 2, which is play retake fully. And they look much more comfortable in that setting. Helped a little bit by Mame not being able to secure that kill onto the stage to begin, but overall, this is a winnable setup for NRG. If they keep up this sort of action, I don't think 6-6 is unreasonable. This time, you're seeing the guiding light used towards mid, and I think you're going to see a bit more emphasis from Envy to try to isolate that part of the map. Maybe a rope split could be in play. Definitely now with that kill.
No, it definitely could be, but still, one person in elevator. Again, like I said, just kind of significant in a sense over towards A, where NRG, they're starting to get looser over towards that area with actually getting some rotations back. This could lead actually Envy to make that A site take a little bit later, a little bit easier, especially with how reactionary this team of NRG is starting to be. But this is a wonderful take again. They use that same wall to get everyone on top. And just like that, Envy, they have full control of sites, but still with a lurk in mid, NRG, they might be in for a very, very nasty surprise Still making their way through, though. That's actually such a weird post plant. That's a lot of attention over towards the heaven area, but with one contact in the front lines and with the NRG, really the best thing that they can do is just try to take it frag for frag if they actually want to make their way through. But yeah, it's a full save coming out for these 3 players. Envy, they have nothing to worry about, as going into the last round, everyone survives. It's honestly just good vibes for them, as NRG, they're not putting up too much pressure over towards that initial takes. The real action comes in to how much control does Envy really have of the map, especially when it comes down to heaven.
Last round in the half.
Jeez. Slow, patient play seems to be doing them a lot of justice. That reminded me a lot of how Sentinels like to split towards B. Now, I'm not saying they stole it from their playbook or anything, but keeping FNS very, very late, very patient. I'm pretty sure he was watching for an initial ropes rotate, but once the coast was clear, and once he got that info from his teammates who did already plant and, you know, got into comfortable post-plant positions, he was able to move up almost free of charge and kind of split alongside his teammates. They're going to be seeing a very quick change of pace in from NRG, but it's not the pace change that they needed. Oh, Lord, this is such an awkward split already. Yeah, Envy are making it work. Caboose finds another one, Gus. What in the world is happening? NRG, they just can't get anything together as they're down 2 versus 5.
No, Envy, they still have one linchpin in the back, and that was EU. EU's only able to get one, though, and FNS with a quick frag back. And speaking of quick, Crashy's down at 10 HP. Takes down his last opponent, trying to rotate back in, and again, that was just a systematic win from Envy in that first half. NRG, it seems like they couldn't get really any momentum going in any of these rounds.
I do appreciate this flash dash that they were trying here, reminiscent of the Vision Strikers days. Oh man, that's just unreal that Caboose was able to pick up that kill. That really did change everything up. Because imagine Infant does find that. He can now hold down screens basically all by himself. He can, if nothing else, survive for the retake, and then he surely has a bit more utility to work with. It sucks to die like that, but Envy, well, it's kind of par for the course for them. Like you said before, Mind, they have a 100% win rate since trying to bring Sky into this usual lineup, this usual roster for them. And it has been a beautiful look. 8-4 in that first half. Now they move on to the defense, and NRG now look to innovate. What a flash. Oh, God.
D flash, perfect timing, and even then, Caboose on the front line still has to hold down side. And D gonna be able to get one headshot to Infinite. Caboose going nuts. Oh, and is lonesome, waiting for players to walk out of this smoke. NRG, they have no chances, no matter who, no matter what is in front of them. And oh no, EU.
Why are you running?
Why are you running? Trying to go away, and Mame hot on his trail. Envy, I mean, that's as slick of a pistol round that you can get. A singular player gets all of that information, gets all of that timing, and, well, NRG, they're stuck up against the ropes with what would be at least a semblance of a buy. They're trying to force out here.
Yeah, I mean, when you're down so much, it's not unreasonable to expect them to try to force up. They did only find 2 guns in that first, or 2 pistols, I think is a more appropriate phrase. But again, if you try to change up the pace here, you move quick. And obviously, if you toss down a slow orb as well as a cyber cage, that way you can path to heaven very quickly. You can start taking advantage of some of these new changes towards split. Doesn't seem to be working out in their favor almost whatsoever. They trade blow for blow, but they are on the back foot, NRG. And once again, Envy, they look to continue their winning ways as they're already wrapping behind and look to wrap this up.
Yeah, they have all that information too. One person over towards screens doesn't see anything, but
I mean, what is this?
I don't know. Making as much noise as possible over towards elevator. One in mid two, it's Caboose. Watching the crossover. He makes noise off the drop. Are you kidding me? No way. Oh, okay. I was about to say, no way he gets kills here. Infinites around the corner. Pretty much knows exactly where Caboose would be. And, well, who would have thunk it? It's a 2-on-2 now for NRG. But
Did we wait for
Envy
dark
does have a
cover?
quick rotation back, and we talk about shotguns before, but this time it's in the hands of oh my, LMG this time, and of course it's Mame. Oh my, I didn't even see it.
Wow.
It looks like through the x-ray, like he's holding a Bucky or something of the sort, but in the end, it's the Ares that nobody uses. Nobody utilizes the Ares, but Mummy goes nuts with it.
It's underrated, all right, man. Just perfect position. He could have done that with almost any gun. If he had a Stinger, I would still kind of expect him to find that 2K because the positioning was perfect. You heard them as soon as they dropped, rather, on their kind of courtesy check towards CT before they try to get the spike planted. You know, just take a gander over there and they die immediately. Again, with an Ares, with a Stinger, hell, with a Bucky, they probably could have found that much damage. But regardless of the weapon, Envy are looking like an absolute terror. Absolute powerhouse. As they look to move on to 11 rounds, already on double digits, excuse me. What? Okay, maybe the Ares could have done that.
Oh,
I take that back.
Yeah, looking to clean things up, but that was, well, really far from clean, especially the wall right behind them. Full with bullet holes and all that, jeez. So even then, you still have the guys of Envy still a little bit more split. They have full B main control at the moment, which we actually saw a whole lot of yesterday of a play from Infinite. Same thing with Crashies, but now here we go. Caboose actually on the front line is going to be able to take down Infinite. Again, so puggy in a sense. You should almost never be going for that type of interaction, especially over towards mid, but that's just Caboose being Caboose, and that paranoia is perfect. Nothing else to say. That is just perfection from Caboose, and Food cleans up with a couple more at the end of things. Envy now 11-4 over NRG, but we do have at least the rifles back in the hands of NRG. We haven't seen too much of a spotlight in a sense, or too much of a showcase on what this attacking side is all about. But really, to start things off, they're going for a little bit more of a default.
Good. I think a default right now is going to be important. NRG, there's no need for them to switch up the pace here, especially when they don't exactly have a read on how Envy want to hold this one. Because kind of in vain with what you're talking about before, Envy don't exactly have the best artillery in the world. They have that Ares, they have that Spectre, and I believe they also had a Stinger or something as well. Not a rifle, for all intents and purposes. So, you know, just feel things out for a while. They're already moving incredibly quick towards B Heaven, and so they're going to be rewarded for their efforts, or so I thought. A beautiful blinding light allows them to pick up one, but it's traded out quickly.
Watch out, Bummy on the front lines. Massive taking down Shanks. Looking away at the perfect time for the flash, but he still has to counteract even more. Goes all the way back and stays disciplined. He can now play up with his teammate over towards B. As, again, with such a beautiful angle now, is Caboose just watching for the crosses. No smokes in B main either. Or, I'm sorry, back over towards spawn. As Infinite now has the angle and has to go for the 1v1. Still with 45 seconds left, there's a whole lot of options, but they're getting restricted for Envy as EU takes down FNS. And that's the A side essentially wide open. Whoa. Caboose.
That's preemptive.
Okay, that's very preemptive to say the least. They fully expected a crossover, but instead now, Som actually spots out one over towards stairs. B side is empty. And again, with the position that this player actually had off the teleport, with the position that Caboose actually had control of. I mean, NRG, they would have had such a tough time actually making their way over towards the B site. But instead now, NRG, this round is essentially free for them if Caboose doesn't pop off. Oof.
That won't happen against Som, man. Well, Som shuts us up, ruins the potential of a 12-4. And hey, if you're an NRG fan, this is what you like to see. Split. I don't think it's arguable to say that Envy are heavily favored for this. But NRG, you know, when it comes to rounds like that, I have a little bit more hope and a little bit more belief that they can pull this one out. Sure, again, you have to keep in mind they are playing for seeding, so surely they can have a bit more fun with it.
Right.
But that round, I think that was incredibly important for NRG to piece together, and they did have a really good idea of what they wanted to pull almost immediately.
Ooh.
In that 3v3, you saw them extend for fights, and right now, the only ones extending for fights seem to be Envy.
A great
Suddenly,
jump
the pace
peek.
has changed.
A great jump peek on top of the cage, by the way, to get that little bit of information. And not only that, but FNS, he's about to get into an interaction with the EU after he teleports into middle.
No smokes.
So, yeah, it's just so many awkward spots, really, both of these teams. And it just so happens to be that NRG is really the butt end of most of these actions. But Envy now, with almost a full rotation back over towards the B sites. 4 players here. FNS on the front lines, but Crashies is going to be here to try to supplement things. The Seeker does find one, though. In goes the White Swing. Still going to be able to hold down to one. Daps with one back. Caboose in the middle of a smoke. Emerges and gets himself another. Restricts things down to a 1v1. And now things are possible for Daps. He gets spotted out. Still with 40 seconds left. There goes the revival. Not even a bait. It's in a beautiful, safe position, and Daps gets revealed
30 seconds left.
from up top. He's actually trying to go for it. There goes the wide swing from FNS. What on earth was that? Daps totally discombobulated in terms of information. Spots one over towards Heaven. That person in Heaven backs out, picks up someone with a revival. It turns from a 1v1 to a 2v1, switches up the dynamic completely. But that was the thing, right? Daps, he got things down to a more comfortable position, had no idea where food would actually be. If anything, he could have stayed a little bit more safe and actually tried to get the bomb plant down, but instead still had a little bit more awareness, wanted to get that cheeky frag off of the rotation. It was a good idea, didn't end up working out in his favor though. It is going to be NRG now facing up against Envy on their own match point, but Shanks, we saw this at the end of the half. He's trying to do something crazy here with a Bladestorm. It's Bladestorm v Bladestorm now, Ito.
They're in the enemy spawn as well. I mean, they're just moving so quick. You have to love to see it. This is that change of pace, that energy we're looking for at the end of the first half, and finally it succeeded. They stay a man strong. Envy, they still begin their attempt to try to retake this one and extend split even further. Check out what's going on here. Flank is in play, and Daps is here to play.
God.
There you have it. 2 kills found. That should be the final blow, at least in this round. Envy, they're sent packing back to their own spawn as they look to find another match point, or to find the final winning points here. But they have 6 chances to do it before we even touch on overtime. I mean, great positions once again from NRG. No doubt to it. But how often is that kind of dash play going to work? You know, I'm not optimistic.
It was well done in a sense, or well targeted in a sense by NRG. Envy, they haven't shown too much attention over towards the A site yet. We've seen lurks from NRG actually really work out in that area. So in a sense, with them having that early information, really trying to target what would be a little bit weaker spot on the map, it's not bad. They still got the job done, but Envy, they don't exactly have to worry about that. So instead of holding on to the A side a little bit more loosely, they actually have someone on the flank right now as we speak over towards sewers, and everyone from Envy is in mid. And when I say everyone, I mean absolutely everyone. All 5 players in mid, as everyone else for NRG spots their way right out of B main. The pistols from Envy, they're going to have to work their hardest coming into this one. Som has the first contact, EU with a return frag, but FNS still makes it possible. Gets one back over towards the B main area.
Huge
Infinite
kill.
still holding. Now it's a 2-on-2. One in Heaven, one coming out from main. EU, he spots his target. Not going to be able to get the kill.
way.
FNS still takes it back. Infinite now 1v1. That wall's about to break. Food has no idea if his opponent is on the left side or the right side, but he still gets it anyways. What a flick from Food. And that's going to be the finisher for splits. Envy 13-6 over NRG.
On a thrifty 2. That was so good. That's something that I need to break down and talk about a bit more, because that is exactly why Envy, that's prime example of why they decide to pick Sky on split. From the very beginning, the first second of that game, they tossed out the guiding light and they heard at least 1 or 2 players that were completely blinded by it. And that slowly started shifting a couple of more rotates, getting a bit more exploratory through A to try to bring that flank in through sewer. Envy, they utilize the guiding light and also try to optimize their slow play as much as possible. They conceded the B bomb site because they felt more than comfortable being able to isolate kills like that and not try to hold on to something that's going to be a nigh impossible hold like B. I could go into more detail, but I'm not sure, you know, we have other maps to get to. But all in all, Envy with the Sky, beautiful as ever. They maintain their 100% win rate, and to close it out on a Thrifty is just salt in the wound.
It's poetic. Purely because this team had pulled out so many rabbits out of their hats, but that's really Envy coming back into form. That's the storyline that we're trying to build up here, folks, because it's Envy, really, who has had a little bit slower of a month in a sense coming into this tournament. Now they pick up a little bit different of a core. They have the Sky, they have all the fire back to them, and they've been perfect thus far this tournament, not dropping a singular map. And at this point, they're looking to continue their reign of dominance coming up on Haven. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys are watching the Valorant Challengers #1. It is semifinals. Envy looking to close things out against NRG in just a little bit.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice. And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless? On its way, sir.
Sounds amazing.
I feel like I need to defend my scene's honor here, because this is just turning into a bit of a dogpile.
Like in groups always look.
I'm cutting you off here. I'm cutting you off. Cutting you off. He said G2's winning it. He said G2's winning it.
Need to wait till the next EU tournament, which could be in about 10 years now.
Take it with like a grain of salt.
No,
but
that's
that
no
being
fun.
said,
Take it super literally.
Spike defused.